Hi y'all. I'm unfortunately not able to be here today for the final. Thank you for Professor Long for letting me be able to submit my presentation to you guys via video. Basically, my presentation, my project that I entailed on for this final is a podcast about education and Marxist theory. I gathered around two of my friends, Braxton Fletcher, which is attending the class right now, and Yo, which I think you guys all know. Basically, he's from Northern California. Braxton's from Northern California, and Yo is from an international schooling in Japan, and I'm from Idaho. And basically, we talk about high school, and I bring up facts about how much each state spends on each student in their state, and how it varies between Idaho, Southern or Northern California, and Japan. And it basically we come to a consensus. We talk about what our experiences were, what we think is happening in our school districts, and how we can improve it, and how that sometimes money in education and other aspects isn't the absolute key, because for instance I'm from Idaho, and Idaho is ranked 33rd on the list for education in the United States, and California is ranked like 10th, 15th, around there, like around pretty, it's higher up there than Idaho. And Japan, for instance, spells or not spells spends 4 trillion yen, which is like $36 billion, and the United States spends like $706 billion on their education. And so basically, we talked about how money has helped us improve our education, and how it kind of doesn't help us improve. And if we all three ended up here at Whittier College, which is roughly $60,000 a year, but we're all on scholarship, how the prices vary in that sense. So, is money really power towards education? Does money matter to invest in, or is it just personal connection between students, and money has nothing to do with it? Or money doesn't matter towards students, and just teacher and students, like connections really matter, and connecting with it, and being driven and being inspired by our teachers and influencers through our life, and actually putting in the effort for each class, and getting behind what they're trying to teach us day in day out, 7 to 8 hours a week, or not a week, um, a day. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. This podcast lasted a little longer than I thought it was. We had good conversation. You guys don't have to watch it all the way through, but I think it lasts like roughly 25 minutes of us talking about it, and where we came from, and what happened, what kind of community we came from, what kind of school district we came from, and if money really matters. And in my proposal, Professor Long, I understand that I said that I'd get a lower income student, a medium like middle class income student, and a higher class income student. But looking down at it, I was a little uncomfortable getting that figured out and asking people around. I just, money is a weird thing to ask people. And so I felt more comfortable going through the state and seeing how much money they spend on average on each student, and how much money a country spends on education, and comparing the two and seeing what really matters. So I hope you guys enjoy. You guys don't have to watch the whole 25 minutes. You guys would literally be bored out of your minds probably. But skip through it, see what we have to say. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope this, entails Marxist theory, and you guys truly understand that money isn't power, and it doesn't power education as either. So thank you very much, Professor Long. I appreciate your class, and we've learned a lot, and thank you. Merry Christmas all, and happy holidays. Thank you. Hi, and welcome back to Jett Setter Podcast. This week we have special guest Braxton Fletcher and Yo. So, today's podcast, we're going to be focusing on education in different states. Myself, and I, Jett Erickson, I'm from Idaho. Braxton Fletcher here, he's from...
What's up, y'all? I'm Braxton. I'm from NorCal, East Bay Area, Pleasanton. I went to Amador Valley High School, and now I'm at Whittier College with these three hooligans.
I'm Yo. I'm from Japan. I went to international school in Tokyo, and I'm here. Thank God.
So basically, the behind this podcast today we're going to be focusing on is money behind education really necessary? Is it provide power? Does it give you more opportunities if you went to a state that provides more money and more funding for school? Or does it mean that it doesn't matter as much because all three of us ended up here at Whittier College, which is $60,000 a year? Most of us, though, are on scholarships, as most of you know. I bet more than half of us sitting in this, or more than half of us in this classroom right now are all on scholarship. Thank you, Whittier College, for all of those.
And the rest are not.
So, I'm going to open this up. Braxton, you're from Northern California. You probably can connect with more people in the classroom. I know a large majority of the population at Whittier College is indeed, in fact, from California. So do you want to talk about your experiences behind your high school years?
Yeah, so in my area, I guessed in... Well, basically, I grew up in a rich area, and a lot of people were assholes about it, and it kind of showed a lot in just like the people that were at my school and just kind of the different types of people and families you saw like at school, at sporting events, and just around town. It was very apparent that for a lot of people in my area, money was not an issue nor a problem, and I think it definitely also showed in, like, my education and everything. We had many programs that just insinuated the use of a lot of money. Like, for example, in my middle school, we had this thing called the laptop program, and you only could be in a laptop program if you were able to afford a laptop for your kid going into 6th grade, which... Looking back on it now and understanding money, it is insane to think that, I had, maybe like 1,000 kids at my middle school and probably 2,500 at my high school, and almost every single one of them has got like at least $1,000 laptop sitting in their backpack. They got $1,000 phone in their pocket, and just everywhere you looked, there was money, and it showed a lot.
Let me jump in real quick. Where did your peers, some of them, go to college? Did they go out of state mostly, or did they stay in state?
A lot of people went out of state. A lot of people wanted to go to, big name universities, Oregon, Bama, SDSU, a bunch of big name schools. A lot of people went to. I'd say the majority went out of state because I feel like a lot of people just wanted to get out of California, get out of the Bay Area, and kind of just experience life in a new area.
Quick question, not to jump in here, but from governing.com, it says that California roughly spends $11,495 per student every single year. Do you think that you yourself used that $11,495, or did it get put to good use at your college, or not your college, at your high school? Did you guys have so every student had a laptop, yes or no? Like, did they have access to laptops?
Yeah, if you didn't own your own laptop yourself, there was at least 30 different computers you could have used on campus. There's a Pleasanton library you could go to whenever it was open, and that had a bunch of computers. Basically, anywhere you were, you could find technology to be able to use.
That's rad. And so did you guys have Promethean boards, like the interactive boards that we have here at Whittier College, the ones that show up on the whiteboards, or the ones that are their own computer screen, like Prometheans and stuff? Like, did you guys have like that sort of thing? Like,
Yeah, so pretty much all throughout, pretty much K through 12, we had Promethean boards, we had Elmos, we had projectors. We had, for my entire 12 years or K through 12, it was, the technology was always in use. It was kind of just a common staple. If you walked into a classroom and there wasn't a projector, there wasn't an Elmo, there wasn't like, not necessarily a smart whiteboard or just like TVs or whatever, it was weird walking in and there wasn't those things. It was like, whoa, what's going on?
Interesting. And how many kids went to your high school?
About 2,500.
2,500. Okay, and you said, I talked to you a little bit before the show. You guys said you guys did not have lockers on campus, though?
I mean, we had lockers on campus, but for some reason we never used them. I think there was like a bomb threat or something about that stopped the use of the lockers. My mom actually went to the same high school as I did, and back in her day, they used lockers back then, but somehow in between now and then, we just stopped using lockers for whatever reason.
Do you think that played a role due to the fact that how many kids went to your high school and they didn't have enough to give everyone a locker, and that's why they didn't have access to use them? Or
I think definitely so. I mean, geez, I think like I said, there was about 2,500 kids there, and I'd say maybe 200 lockers. I mean, we had like gym lockers, but like we didn't have any lockers for like
your personal
school
use.
stuff, personal items, or anything like that.
Interesting. Right on. Moving on now. So that's a sense for California. I don't want to, characterize California as a whole from what Braxton's experience was, but that's a little insight where $11,495 goes to.
It's kind of an insight into the kind of more the wealthier area of the Bay Area and California in general.
Nice. And do you have? I mean, does this sound pretty much the same experience you had? I mean, you went to Tokyo, school in Tokyo. You're from Japan. Do you have similarities? What was your high school experience like at international schools? It wasn't public, correct?
No. So I went to a private school for my normal high school, and then I went to international school that focused on education that was in English, and it helped me learn English and helped me connect with all the university outside of Japan. And I would say, as far as funding goes for education, we have a lot more funding than California or the United States.
Yeah, can I jump in real quick and add a statistic?
Yeah, of course.
So it says here from Japan public spending on education from indexmonday.com. It says that Japan has spent $4 trillion.
That is insane.
Which it's 4 trillion yen, I should say. And that is $35.6 billion. And compared to our spending, which is $706 billion, or $13,846 per public school, per public school student. And to tell you the truth, I sit below that from Idaho. Our average is only $7,000, so we're four grand off of what the average is, but yet we rank way below in school education. So, continue with your experience at so do you think your $4 trillion from Japan helped you get to the United States for education, for higher education? I mean, what was your,
I would say so. I would Japan has a lot of focus on students, and a lot of the funding goes to benefits if you're a student, and also goes to a lot of the tutorings and off school, like English schools and programs that they have in Japan. I would say when it would come to the things that we had in class, we actually worked with chalk, and it would still be the chalkboard, and we would be using a lot of old school things, but all of our textbooks and all of our uniforms and things that we would need for school would be all inclusive with the tuition. And they fund so many programs. You could do all kinds of things, and I think these days it's it's been changing from the high school is getting actually a lot similar towards the American system, because before, just like a year or two ago, like the emphasis on this one test, this test that you take after when you graduate high school, that kind of determines like the rest of your life and the job position you get. And then it went from that one test into more of emphasis on GPA and kind of standardizing the education similar to the American educational system. But I do notice that Japan has a lot more material when it comes to education, and all the programs that they have is just crazy.
So what was your school hours like? For me, I went from school from 8:30 to 3:30. That was a regular school day, but we were allowed as higher classmen of high school, we were allowed to have 6 periods in total. Some people even had 5 if they played sports or were a part of the ski foundation. And so yeah, kids got out at noon sometimes to go skiing, and that was what they did. They got there at 5. Crazy, you know what I mean? So what was your guys' hours like compared to it?
So for me, it was I started school at 8, and we were out at 3:02 every day except for Wednesdays where we had a screwed up schedule. But one thing I wanted to touch on that Yo actually brought to my attention that was interesting is that Yo's saying that he used chalkboards and everything and kind of old school material, and for me I was using all the new technology, but all of his programs and stuff were in textbooks and everything were all paid for by the school and through the school. For me it was the complete opposite. We had the really nice technology, but anything else beyond just the straight classroom learning we had to pay for on our own. And like I said, not to talk bad about my area, but like it was a very wealthy area. A lot of people were well off, and for myself and my family, we weren't at that caliber. We weren't super wealthy. We were just getting by and doing what we could. My parents worked their asses off to kind of get me to where I am today and give me what I can. But it's very interesting seeing the difference there.
And Joe, do you think the lack of technology at your school, saying that you have chalk and chalkboards to write on, was a better way of learning or a kind of an inconvenience to your learning? I feel because a lot of people's studying techniques are writing things down by hand instead of typing it, because they can their mind and their flow of their hand is memorizing things that way.
I would say it would be a little bit of both, because when you really do utilize the new technology, there's so many things that you can access just through a computer. But I think the act of really just writing things down, I retained a lot of the information in high school compared to in middle school when I experienced the American middle school system. I think I learned a lot more, I would say.
Interesting. And now to compare, to you guys, I'll explain some of my stuff.
I
from
want to hear about what was going on in Idaho.
Idaho, I'm on worldpopulationview.com, and it says Idaho is ranked 33rd out of 50 states here in the United States, so that's pretty low. And like I said, Idaho only spends $7,157 on each student, and that's way below. That's $4,000 below the national average. And so to go from there, I came from a wealthy Blaine County school district. It was the highest paid highest paid to teachers and most resources and technology. We had Chromebooks that were free to use. We rented them at the beginning of the year for those who didn't have computers. We had after-school programs like Girls on the Run. We had track that allowed anyone to join the team. So we were, and we lived in the mountains, so we were very high active, high energy kids, but we had a very influx of wealthy students to middle class to very, very lower class students. But in the grand scheme of things, if they didn't apply themselves as well, the higher class kids still ended up in the same place as if the lower class kids didn't apply themselves as well. What I figured out is by the students applying themselves and working hard and going into student hour or teacher hours and getting extra help, figuring out at my school all teachers were available. They had 2 periods that were free, so we have 7 periods throughout the day, 2 periods that are free for students to walk in and talk and understand course materials. And if you didn't do that and you just went along with the basic flow, well, you were screwed. But if you actually went in and got help, the teachers were more than happy to help help students out on their free time. And to you guys, did you guys have those like tutoring hours, or do you guys have teachers that were available, or do the fact that the population of your schools was? I mean, what was your population in your school?
For my day school, it was 2,000 kids for both elementary, middle school, and high school.
Okay, and see, I came from a school that was from freshman to senior. That was 400. I had 200 kids in my graduating class, and roughly around 700 to 800 kids in my high school.
Wow.
So interesting. Now, with that, all 3 of us come from different backgrounds, different state expenditures from each of our states and countries. But do you think that the money really matter? I mean, we're all here paying, roughly around the same amount of money, given the fact that Braxton's in-state and me and you are both out-of-state, and he's on international scholarship and I'm from out-of-state scholarship. But do you think the fact with you spending your country spending $4 trillion, California spending 11 something, $11,000 on education, and my state spending $7,000 on education. Do you really think that money really matters, and it's just all mindset and how much effort the student puts in and how much he cares about his education, or do you think that money plays a big factor in excelling students?
I would say that from my experience in Tokyo, there were people that had everything, that had all the resources and all the money, and they still didn't do well. But at the same time, I think that money and funding in education and all that extra money put into education and programs just further your potential of succeeding and doing, like, being able to be the best that you could be, compared to if you didn't have as much money. However, if you don't apply yourself, you really can't do anything. But I do believe that money has a big role in helping kids out with their learning.
I mean, I'd say the same thing for myself, because, like, I mean, there were a lot of people at my school that, they were very wealthy, but, they kind of just felt entitled or whatever. I'm not sure, but, they just didn't apply themselves in school, and they either flunked out or just got terrible grades and weren't able to, go to a lot of places that that they could have gone if they applied themselves. But at the same time, I think money just played a big role, because for me it was like a lot of my classes and a lot of homework and everything was done online, and that's where I found everything. That's where all my resources were. And for kids that didn't have access to internet or computers at home, I couldn't even imagine how much harder it would have been for them to kind of do the same things that I was able to do. But since I had access to the internet and computers and everything at my house whenever I wanted it, it was much easier for me. So I think money definitely plays a big role into, how students learn and how much they get out of it. But I think at the end of the day, it does come down to how much the student themselves apply themselves to their work and their school and dedication, pretty much how much they want to work to go where they want to be.
Right on. We are coming up on 20 minutes here. I want to wrap this up. Thank you guys for listening. But last 2 questions, we're going to wrap it up with, how do you think we can, better our education going on further as becoming adults, and when we have our own kids, excelling the kids in education and leading them in the right path? And do you think, coming from higher money, or not more money, paying the teachers, that the teachers have more incentive to do better? Or do you think that they're just, or not do better, but give the kids more attention, more time because they're being paid more money? Or do you think they'll just take it and run if you paid them more money?
I think just putting in as much money as you can into something isn't the best way to go. I think,
because I feel like greed gets in the way.
Yeah,
definitely.
really, for sure. And I think that it really just depends on the student, and you can do things and help them by adding more classes, having a variety of all these different things that the kid actually can see himself doing and having a passion for. But I think when it comes to just if we're asking if money is the key factor in a kid's education, I would disagree, because like for my schedule, when I went to school from 8 to 3, just like the American system, but then we would have sports after 3, and then we would have another class for whatever you wanted to do. And I chose English. You could do things like chemistry, bio, you could do Spanish, all these different things. And I think just having access to that, it gives the student more of an incentive, because they're free classes. You learn. It really just focuses on, it's almost like they put in more, Japan puts in more money so the kids don't have to think about money, and all they have to think about is learning and what they want to learn. So I think revolving around, instead of money, on expanding all the things that the kid would want to learn would be a better way to go than just putting money all over the place.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with you on that. And I mean, just like you, we had a lot of after school extracurricular activities, sports, clubs, and stuff like that. But I think as well as the money, I think another big thing that kind of plays into how students learn and stuff is kind of the area that they're in. Because for me in my area, it was excellence and good grades and everything like that wasn't seen as like a necessarily like a, it was more expected rather than cherished. Like, if you weren't getting good grades, if you weren't doing well in sports, it was, you were looked down upon, and people would chastise you for it. And it was a lot of the successful people in my school felt a lot of pressure from outside sources, parents, other parents, and the school system itself. I think on top of the money, like Yo said, it's not all about the money, it's about how much the student puts into it. But I think it's also definitely how much the surrounding society is expecting of their students, because there's a lot of places like where the education system isn't as necessarily as high as mine was. My school is a very prestigious high school, I'd like to say, and excellence is kind of required out of all kids, and it put a lot of stress on a lot of students, and that definitely played a major role as well into my learning and my other peers' learning experience.
Well, I appreciate you guys' viewpoint. To finalize this last part, I'll put my little 2 cents in. I feel like if you give teachers a reason to teach, if they're working minimum wage, they're going to treat the job as minimum wage. If you put money behind their job and something for them to care about, to keep going and to support their family and friends and their lifestyles, they'll put a lot more into the students as well. After school programs, to me, were everything where we were from. We had many different options for after school that our teachers, devoted their personal time, opened up to kids, had them over for dinner, had, different aspects like astrology. Kids would meet at midnight with a teacher at night and look at the stars, and I don't know, inspiration. The teachers gave the students inspiration, gives the kids inspiration, and as long as the teacher and the student give each other like-minded mindsets and they liked each other and they could connect with one another. I feel like students had way more better opportunity behind that. So I agree. Money does help out with that aspect. Paying the teachers a little more, giving them an incentive to do better, to teach more. But I do not think throwing money all over the board, with high class technology and all that way, or throwing money towards technology and just stuff like higher upgrades that schools these days don't really need, isn't necessary. So
definitely, I think it's like, end of the day, it comes down to how much the teachers are passionate about teaching their students and how much the students are willing to put in. Because at the end of the day, if the student doesn't put in the work, then how is any learning going to
And that has no wealth involved. So.
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. We three are both here at Whittier College, and we're very thankful to be here right now.
Dub C!
Yeah, and depending on whatever the money amount each student was put in through state or country, we're here, and and I wish you guys the best of luck and congrats, and that's it. This is Jet Setter Radio tuning out. Thank you for joining us today on this Thursday night evening. We will hopefully see you guys back here next week for another episode. Thank you so much.